To order. We have some special guests to lead us in the pledge.
We are ready. 1, 2, 3.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The law of course. Honest, optimistic, respectful, never gives up, successful, leader of the
Have a great day, Longhorns. Longhorns, okay. Longhorns, you can come through here and shake everybody's hand. Thank you. It's this way. Good job. Thank you for coming.
Great job. Good job. Good job. Thank you. Good job, buddy. Good job. Good job. Good job.
One more, Lucy.
There's Lucy.
Yeah.
Hey, walks in church. I think that's Harrison's a little bit of coach out there.
And I'm like,
We'll move on to approval of the agenda.
Madam President, I move we approve the agenda with the following amendments. 1, additional certified and classified personnel actions as presented, item number E-3. 2, add item number 5-B, other approval of out-of-state travel with National Educators Rising Conference in Orlando, Florida on June 29th, 2023 through July 2nd, 2023 for the national competition.
For a second,
I'll second.
questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passed. Do we have any public comment? Next, we have recognition of the high school bowling teams.
Board, thank you for allowing us to come up again tonight. Tonight, we're going to honor our boys bowling team this year at state bowling. We brought home another state trophy. Our boys finished third in the state. We brought home multiple trophies in bowling. It's one of our more successful programs that we have at the high school. We obviously have great bowlers, but we also have great community support for bowling in Garden City with our proprietors and everything that they do for us. Tonight, I'm going to let Kip Nichols, Coach Nichols, kind of talk a little bit about the boys bowling team this year.
All right, good. Thank you, Drew. We had a very successful season. Starting out with our conference schedule, we went 96-8, and I know that probably doesn't mean a lot to you, but each of our matches were worth 13 points, and we only lost 8 points all season long in our 8 home and aways. There were very few times that we weren't dominating everybody in our conference, and we had a good opportunity, even though we bowled in probably the toughest regional in the state of Kansas, with several Wichita programs that were ranked above us for the season. We had a great regional finish. We were the regional champions. KJ Burns was our regional champion individually, and went to the state tournament. We didn't come out quite as good as we'd like to have. We ran into a team that just got exceptionally hot, but we put up good numbers. KJ was the state runner-up this year. That's 2 years in a row now for him. We're excited because this group of boys you see right here, 4 of them are sophomores, 1 junior and 1 senior, so we're gonna be good for a while. And so we just thank you for all the support you as a board and a school district give us the latitude to travel and compete against the schools we need to compete against to remain good. So, have any questions?
How did we finish individually at WAC?
We finished, we obviously won the conference WAC, and 4 of our 6 bowlers were in the top 6 in the conference. We had 8 bowlers in the top 12. So, yeah, we kind of dominated the conference too. And as Drew said earlier, we couldn't do it without the support of our proprietors. Keith Strasser, Nathan Bridges at Hard Rock Lanes, Lori and Steve Whitehurst at Garden Bowl. They have been so good to our program over 17 years. And they've just done so much for us, and we just couldn't be a program without them.
One last thing before we let them shake your guys' hand. Coach B, if you'll step forward for a second. Coach B has been the assistant coach at the high school for a number of years. She's done 15. She's done a great job with our bowling program for a number of years. Unfortunately for us, fortunately for her, she's going to step down at the end of this season. She's pursuing her ministry. She wants to become a youth leader at her church, so she's going to step back a little bit from bowling. But I really do want to thank you, Coach B, for the 15 years that you've given to our bowling program and to our students.
Guys have any questions for us?
Oh, I just thank everybody for representing us and our schools so well.
How far do you guys travel outside of WAC?
We go to Wichita. We went 4 times this season. First weekend in January, we're there for the Bishop Carroll All Kansas Invitational. There was 32 teams there this year. We placed in the top 5 on both sides, boys and girls. Turn around 3 weeks later and go back for the Great Plains Invitational. There's 34 teams there. It's a 2-day tournament. Girls bowl 1 day, guys bowl the other. Again, boys finished in the top 8. Girls were just outside the top 8. But we're kind of in a rebuilding year on our girls' side. We've been perennially strong there, but we lost 4 of our 6 starters from last year. So we're kind of in the rebuild. So we'll get there again. And then we, of course, went back for regionals and then again for state. So usually between 2,000 and 2,500 miles of travel each season, and that's in a 8-week period. So lots of window time.
Bowling's a good example of just the proximity. We just don't have proximity of great bowling in Western Kansas. And in order to compete at the level these guys compete at and our girls compete at, you can't stay in Western Kansas and be elite. And that's why with our program, with our bowling program, we have to get outside of this, kind of like everything else, theater and basketball and everything else. In order to be really good, you're going to have to get out of kind of our silo of Western Kansas.
Yeah, it's been that success has probably cost us our assistant coach because there is a huge time commitment. It's overnight travel. It's a couple nights out for the one tournament. And I completely get it. I have a great deal of respect for what she's done for her choice. I just got to try to find an assistant coach now. And I have had to look for one in 15 years. So it'll be good though. Very good. Any other questions? All right. All right. Thank you guys.
Thanks a lot. Great job, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. 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 Miles. Very nice.
This is mine. Clear, sure. Congratulations. Congratulations. Good job.
Next up, a building presentation by A. Pippert Elementary School.
class. I'm happy to talk about that one.
It's really strong, sorry. If I have to.
Good evening. My name is Karen Merle, and I'm the principal at A. Hubert Elementary.
And I'm Brian Cott. I'm the assistant principal at Tulsa at Hubert.
And we were just here not so long ago, if you will remember, talking about our data and the frog presentation. And so best laid plans, we're going to shake it up a little bit because there hasn't been much movement or change in our data since the last time we were here. We're getting ready to take the state assessments, but we're just going to talk a little bit about what we did this year. And then if you have any questions for us, you can ask them. So we started out the year, and I sometimes choose the theme based on just kind of the feel of things. And I felt like we were charting a new course, new leadership, and lots of new programs and students and faces. And so we started out the year charting a new course with lots of new things, and we're going to talk about some of those. One of the first things that was really different or new for us was Leader in Me. We are super excited about the potential and all of the things that are coming about because we have decided to be a Leader in Me school. This is just an example of some of the things. We get a nice banner to hang in our hallways, but that's not the only thing that is happening. There's been a lot of talk among teachers and students about the accountability of academics and leading into behavior. And then our building lighthouse team has broken into 6 different action teams, and those are teacher-led, and we're just now learning the depths of everything that can happen with those, but there's some examples there. One of the things that the committees did is charged each grade level with decorating a poster to hang on our walls to teach the 7 habits. The 5th and 6th grade students are leading a monthly 7 habits assembly that is attended by the whole school. And then those other 2 things on there are just some accountability that teachers have added to their classrooms with regards to academics.
Along with Leader in Me, part of the academic piece is next year we'll go into like binders where our students will track their own WIGs. So they'll align with our building goals as well. So how much they're going to improve academically. So they're kind of touching on those in the classroom with our building goal of improving our reading scores. They also have leadership roles throughout the day or the week. Some students will work on with the staff member how to fix the sign up in front and update the sign. Others will come do the morning announcements or lead the school with the pledge. Some will be like office aides in the afternoon. So they kind of have roles, not jobs. So they'll sign up for those roles. So it's volunteer based. So they kind of have ownership into it instead of us telling them this is what you're going to do. So enjoy it.
And that supports the paradigm that Franklin Covey is promoting, is that everyone has a genius. And so it's our job to help people and kiddos find their genius. And there's a lot to unfold with these. you can just see a few things. That we have an older student reading to the lower pod in the morning. We have door greeters. They greet their kid, and I've had to talk to them because they're tardy to their other job, which is going to school, because they like to stay out there and hold the door for all the kids that are coming in. So I've had to say, when you hear that first bell, you need to make sure you start heading to class. We have Mr. D and our student are there consulting, and part of what we're unfolding is that we as adults have to be living the 7 habits in order for them to be with the kids. And so we have started with we have a new wellness champion. And so with the wellness champion that's leading the staff, we have started monitoring and setting goals as a staff. Nobody knows the goals. Like I have a goal, Mr. Cott has a goal. Everybody on staff has a goal that they're working for. We reflect on that. And then we have a job where students come around every Friday and ask us, did we do good on our goal this week? It is not so good, or is it really bad? And I'll tell you, the accountability as an adult, having to tell those kids if I'm not doing too great on my Dr. Pepper habit, is motivating. So that's cool. We have buddies. This student right here, she's leading the little kids from the cafeteria, and she has a straighter, quieter line than I think some of the adults do in the building. So.
And that's with a lot of the goals. Some of the upper level kids are working with the lower, and just watching the interaction between the different grade levels. It's pretty amazing watching some of our students that maybe have some difficulties with certain behaviors actually working extremely well with those younger students and being a good example when they're working in that type of setting. So that's kind of been a byproduct of the whole leadership job or role goal, not a job, but a role as well.
We're currently taking the MRA, which is an assessment, a data point. 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, if their parents signed off on it, are taking that, staff members. And then we also are going to provide the link to parents, and that is going to guide our decision moving forward for next year, what we'll tackle in the Leader in Me program. The next part is our partnership with Dream First Bank. They are have been a supporter for a long time. What's new about them is they got a new name this year. And so every Friday they are open in our lobby, and students come in and deposit. And then our 5th and 6th grade students, these were jobs that they applied for and could get. Staff also volunteer to help the bank staff with running and making sure that everything goes well. Kindergarten showcase. We've had a lot of new things in kindergarten. Not only are they the new faces in our building year after year, but they also have done some new things. They had an alphabet vest parade, a fashion show, where they created vests based on a letter. Everything that was on the vest had to start with this certain letter, and then they had a fashion show, and that was invigorating. And then they hung in our lobby for people to enjoy for a little while. They're also, to make connections with their end of module or end of unit teaching, they are doing some fun things. The picture down there is a picture of them choosing what their favorite holiday was after studying the holiday unit and dressing up as that holiday for school. We also had a Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade where they designed their own balloons. We played New York songs and over the intercom, and they showed those off. Another new thing this year is the wildly important goals, and that's something that has added a lot of accountability to our data discussions and our focus in ELA. We talked a lot about that the last time we were here. You could see the teachers' excitement, but we have focused on phonemic awareness and the Hegarty program in K through 2. 2nd grade is now starting to do some fluency because it's no longer needed as a class-wide intervention. And then 3rd through 6th grade has focused on closed reading. And, you know, every time I think, okay, this is gonna be the stopping point for the year, and they just keep adding more to those awesome lessons. Recently we added show calling to their Rolodex, I guess, for closed reading, where they are choosing student examples of writing and sharing that with the class. As you would imagine, there has to be a certain amount of relationship building with that for teachers and students, because some students are not maybe willing to share at the beginning. But what we are finding is it is a high motivator because they want to do well on their writing, so their teachers can use it as an example. So it's been a delicate dance for teachers to figure out how to apply it, but we've heard great feedback from the teachers.
And I think in some grade levels, we actually had more excitement than we realized. Kids wanted their work to be shared. So at times it's also improved the speed of the class. Instead of showing everybody's, it's kind of taking peer editing and putting that on steroids, where the class gets to look and, oh, they did well in this, or maybe how can we improve on this? So it's actually using their example in real life time. So like our fourth grade is super excited to share their work. So that's been one area that it has been a lot of growth, because they all want it up there. They don't want to be, well, she's got called on, I want my work up there. So it's improve the quality of their overall work as well.
The logic behind it makes sense. You know, we just listened to a bowling team who's had years of success. When you are able to be successful, you found the recipe, you found the magic sauce to make that work. And so I think that what show calling is doing is sharing, okay, if one kid's doing it right, maybe we need to analyze that work and see what they're doing so that you can replicate. And I don't want to say that they're copying, but that you can add that to their list of things. Lastly, I think our next two slides are with the community, and Brian and I come at Garden City from two different perspectives. He's a transplant, and I've been here my whole life, and this is home. But I think that we're both very, very grateful for the community support that is around us. I can't ever speak enough about what great people are in this community. And this is just an example of some of the things that have happened in our school this year. And I don't have a picture of it because I only took one and it was getting dark outside. But one of the first things we did as a community is we had a movie shown on Penrose Field this year for our families to come. And that was in conjunction with the Garden City Rec. They helped set everything up and helped us tremendously. In October, we had Garden City Police Department and several other community agencies that came for our trunk or treat. And we had probably about 350 students that went through that particular event. And then in November, we had Thankful Thursdays every Thursday, and we thanked a different part of the community. So we had emergency responders, we had veterans one Thursday, we had school personnel one Thursday, parents one Thursday, just a lot. The football team was a big hit. They came and greeted our students one day and hung out in the gym with Mr. D, and that was awesome. We also have had an area author come to visit our school. Police officers, the community colleges also sent their soccer team to visit our school as well. Another unique thing that I started this year is Abe Hubert has had a scholarship at Garden City Community College for as long as I can remember. I think Mr. Proct probably started it. Well, I know he started it. Staff over the years when they were at Garfield and now at Abe Hubert have just added funds to that fund at Garden City Community College. And every year I get invited to go to the banquet to recognize the student who gets it. The student who is eligible has to have attended Abe Hubert Elementary. So this year I for some reason, I think Leader in Me is what triggered it. I said, I need to have an essay contest and have students submit why they should get to go to this particular banquet. So I had about half the sixth graders submit an essay on why they think they should go to the banquet and get to meet the new scholarship recipient. And so this student here, Miss Crandall, was our student who got chosen. And then Gabby, our former student, came and talked with all the sixth graders that wrote an essay on what they needed to do to go to college and to consider Garden City Community College. So another fun thing that we did this year, just to get some exposure to the kids, and this was a dream come true for me, was to get the kids to go to the Nutcracker. Not because we went to the Nutcracker, but although it was a really fantastic show, but we took the day before, or maybe I should say a couple of days before, and we applied what the skills that we were teaching teachers with the wigs to lessons that they could teach their students. And then we took them all to the Nutcracker. And the students had a wonderful time. A lot of our kids have not been to live performances before, so it was just great all the way around. And I know we had a few students fall asleep because it's even condensed, was pretty long and it was right after lunch, but I had more students tell me that it was fantastic. And they had opinions. That was the other thing. They had opinions about what was happening in the story because we had preloaded all of that with closed reading activities in reading and math.
And you could tell most of them paid attention because they were able to talk about what parts in the play they liked, what they didn't like, what I didn't get, what happened here. So that tied it all together as well. So you know, majority were fully engaged with what was happening. It was pretty exciting to watch.
So that's the end of our presentation. Do you guys have any questions for us? Yeah. The hot seat.
I really liked seeing some of the things in the Leader in Me that we previously used to do that's kind of been brought back, like this buddy reading or and giving the kids some, I guess accountability is not really the right word, but you know what I'm getting.
I know what you're getting at, and I think
leadership part of it.
I think we've just
Collaborate.
Yeah.
touched, it's just the tip of the iceberg. My kindergarten teachers, or our kindergarten teachers, really wanted to start that out with goal setting and having the older students help the kindergartners reach some of their goals. We took a few steps back because we've got to fill in some spaces before we're ready for that. I think we can get there. It's just, in fact, the teachers and came in, they said they're not listening to us because the teachers wanted very specific things about how to test and all of that. And I thought, that kind of sounds familiar, because sometimes we say, well, we told you that. So it will work out. We just have to get through some of the kinks with that. Anything else? Well, thank you all for support of the Longhorns, and you're welcome anytime. Come by our building.
Thank you. Next up, housing update and neighborhood revitalization plan.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Matt Allen. I'm the city manager for the city of Garden City. Thank you for having the city here today for this update, which our intention was to give annually several years ago, but I do believe we missed last year. And so it's good to be back and give you this update. I'm joined by Trent Maxwell, Director of Neighborhood and Development Services, also Alicia Charles, Assistant Director of Neighborhood and Development Services, and Assistant City Manager Danielle Burke. And she's a member of my senior management team and oversees public safety and development. This is the presentation, which I believe you got an advanced copy of in your packet, is 54 slides long. We're not going to go over each of those. However, if there's questions on some of the specific projects that are listed, you're free to ask me those now or catch up with us later and ask those. This was a presentation we gave to the City Commission a few weeks ago in a format which allowed us an hour to take a deeper dive into this. We didn't recreate the presentation. We'll show it to you, the community college and the county as well. But we wanted you to have the same information. This will be a little bit more of a macro overview of the topic, though. First of all, it'll start with the collection of the development tools that we use at the City of Garden City and Finney County, and be able to explain how you are a partner in many of those tools. Then we'll then focus on the housing piece, and I'll explain why when we get there. And then we'll conclude with one incentive that we're looking at re-examining for the first time in almost 30 years, and would like you to begin thinking about your level of interest in doing so. And four, thank you. Here are the development tools that we use in Garden City and Finney County. Rural Housing Incentive District is a tax increment financing tool. You'll also see tax increment financing as the third bullet there. But when it's specifically used for residential development, that's a tool that's provided to some cities and counties in the state of Kansas, not all cities and counties. You have to meet their definition of rural, which we do. But after that part, it operates like a tax increment financing tool. It preserves the tax to the taxing entities in the district. So in Garden City, that would be the four I mentioned, us, the city, the school district, the college, and the county. Preserves the tax streams that had been going in up till that point. The newly created value of that property after new development becomes a revenue stream that can help pay for eligible expenses related to the development of the property. And with only a few exceptions, there hasn't been a residential property developed in Garden City and Finney County without the use of this tool in 20 years. We've only been using the tool for about 10, but there wasn't any development for the 10 years prior to that. Community improvement districts. This allows a district to be created and use sales tax for similar type infrastructure investment. Community improvement districts do allow for payment to be made towards vertical construction, and that isn't necessarily the case for RHIDs or traditional TIFs. Tax increment financing, tax increment tool for commercial and industrial development. Sales tax and revenue bonds is a unique tool used at the state where the local entity would commit their unobligated portion of sales tax generated from sales made within a district above a baseline. Again, it's an increment tool, but it's related to sales tax. The thing that makes this so unique, so powerful, and so highly sought after in the state of Kansas is that it also commits the state's sales tax, which is really kind of the biggest portion. So there are somewhere between a dozen and a couple dozen STAR bond projects around the state of Kansas, and Garden City has one, and it is back underway. Special assessments. We haven't used this tool ever since we started using the Rural Housing Incentive District. Special assessments would have been a situation where we would have paid for, the city would have paid for the infrastructure related to building out roads, sewer, water, electric to a subdivision, and put the assessed against the properties that expense. And then if once somebody owned the property, they would be paying back into on an annual basis their portion of those special assessments. Those became extremely cumbersome 10 or 15 years ago. It would be double that now, where you could almost be paying as much on special assessments as you could on the mortgage payment for the house. Neighborhood Revitalization Program is a program that was developed about 30 years ago. It is also an increment tool, but it functions different where it sends the money back in a rebate format to the property owner, whoever the property owner is. So it travels with the property owner. Rural Housing Incentive District and tax increment financing goes to the developer, as do many of those other items. Industrial revenue bonds. This is the only one of these that actually gives abates property tax. You hear the word tax abatements. There's very few tax abatements that are given here, and even in industrial revenue bonds, according to the city and county policy, the maximum that can be given under our the criteria of our policy is 60%. I believe the county commission or city commission, I can't remember which one had the authority to grant it at the time, did grant the Dairy Farmers of America project at 70% because of the uniqueness of that project. But for the most part, it's somewhere between 20% and 60%. Has to be a pretty gigantic project to get a 60% abatement. A lot of people that choose this route will end up with somewhere between 20 and 40. And that's based on either the number of jobs you create or the amount of capital investment. Finally, the city does use on occasion a waiver of fees or cash incentives, particularly as they related to the building out of some retail projects that had some tax increment financing tools on top of it. And we do the math as to, does the cash make sense if it accelerates the payoff of the bonds and gets all 4 taxing entities receiving the revenue stream faster? We have thrown out a carrot for some of the development to build the outlots. By comparison, it's a pretty small tool used to everything else on the list. And our fees are really low. So we'll occasionally throw those in on a development agreement. Okay, so that's the overview. We're going to talk about RHID and we're going to talk about neighborhood revitalization program today. The idea of about 10 years ago to begin using the RHID tool was really a big commitment on the part of the school district and the college and the county and the city. We agreed together, we had met in 2010 as all the elected bodies in Finney County, trying to figure out what was the most important issue facing the community. Universally, without exception, parking was number one. And really with that momentum and energy, we began digging deeper into this new tool that the statutes had provided for us called Rural Housing Incentive District. Understanding that that's a big commitment because when a project comes and visits, they're typically visiting with the city of Garden City about wanting to break new ground, do a new subdivision and going over costs. We can talk to them about RHID, but it only survives this 30-day appeal process with the other bodies once it's approved. So the ordinance gets passed by the city of Garden City to include the property in the district and then to do to kind of ignite, let's say, the RHID tool. From that point on, there's about a 30-day window where we provide notice to all the taxing entities, and you all have the ability to take an action against that, which at that point in time, if one group drops, that incentive's off the table. And given how much it generates, that's really a lot hangs in the balance. A lot of investment will have been made at that point by the developer, even to get it to that point. So it felt right to say, if we're going to use this tool, we're all in agreement that we're going to use this tool. We need to know that we can visit with developers with some level of confidence that the rug wouldn't get pulled out from under them midstream. As a trade-off for that, we're going to come back and talk about, does the demand still warrant this aggressive of a tool? Because while we needed housing at the time, and this is a great tool to do that, we could anticipate that there would come a point in time where maybe we don't want to use that tool anymore because we're starting to run into some real expenses to accommodate the growth in population, and those would face all 4 taxing entities, not the least of which would be the school district. So this is kind of an annual report to say, where's the supply, where's the demand? And I think we've agreed that we need to skate to where the puck's going to be 3 or 4 years down the road, because somebody comes in and talks to us today about doing a housing development. We're probably not seeing houses for 2 or 3 years out of that if we're lucky. So those are long-term investments in time and money. And this is where we stand. The Community Housing Assessment Team or Tool, I don't know what the T stands for, but that's a report we do every 2 years. Statutorily, we have to do those reports to be able to use this tool. It shows demand across different categories. Now, you'll see that affordable in single family housing is the highest need in here. Nobody's we haven't ran into a developer that's willing to lose money to build a $200,000 house, because if they're breaking new ground, there's probably $50,000 to $60,000 in infrastructure costs on the lot. So from a single family standpoint, while this says where the need is, when we reach the point where supply and demand are in harmony, it will largely be because houses were built in the other categories, freeing up the market to lessen the price inflation on the balance of the housing in the community. The apartments are a little bit more spread out, but again, we haven't ran into folks that believe they can build new construction apartments in that bottom range and maybe even the second to bottom range. So again, those lower price points are more than likely going to get made up by the slack in supply and demand. The chat is done. The research for the 2021 chat was done in early 2020. That anticipated that by 2030, we would need 1,395 units, averaging about 2,000 a year. Last year in 2022, the city commission, understanding there were more projects in the pipeline that would create jobs and therefore accentuate the demand on housing, set an aggressive goal that we need to be on a pathway to have 4,000 units, because the pace, we've been saying, well, this has got to slow down at some point in time, but we've been saying that now for 13 years. And I think the commission's point was we need to make plans that this would continue. And there's a lot of checkpoints along the way between 0 and 4,000 where it looks like those facts don't pan out anymore. You can hit the eject button on that strategy and stop at 2,000 or 2,500. But begin thinking about infrastructure development on our end, heading in directions where there's property sufficient to grab 4,000 units. From a perspective, that's building the sixth largest city in the western half of the state and putting it up against the largest city in the western half of the state. So 4,000 units, roughly 10,000 people. Okay, so the next few slides show what we've done towards that 200 units a year, even with all the tools that we have and more developers in the game than we used to have before. We're still not hitting numbers. Most of this is in single family. Cruise through a few, this is just another way of showing we're behind. This is the last 3 years of where property is. I'll buzz through those. Red dots are single family. You can see we're just now starting to see some multifamily permits pulled. Really do think that if the 4,000 number is achievable, even something half that amount, the emphasis will really need to be on multifamily more so than housing. Those are private sector decisions. There are some things locally we can do through zoning that would limit the ability of single family residential neighborhoods and really kind of pushing higher density, more front doors per acre, more front doors per dollar invested in infrastructure. Another overview of permits, you can go through this and we show this a couple different ways. This is the piece of paper that was passed out. You can see now why we passed it out. The crosshatch is how many years. The RHID was 15 years as originally designed, and up until only recently has the opportunity to have the home rule choice of expanding that out to 20 come into play. The blue box is those projects which look to pay off early, and the blue box that's further left, about 6 columns down, is the First Chapel Heights project. And that when that pays off, all the eligible expenses have paid off. It'll pay off in advance of its deadline. Then that revenue stream comes back to the city, the county, the school district, and the college. So that long-term investment that you've made along with us and the other 2 taxing entities is going to begin providing a revenue stream in addition to having provided housing several years ago. And that subdivision, the other ones that really look to pay off early are the other ones. That subdivision has really been a good example of how that tool can work and work out better than even what you commit to on the front end. It works if you build out housing fast. If you kind of build one house a year, it's the increment. So if you don't create the increment as a developer, you don't create the increment, you don't get the revenue stream. You still paid all those expenses on the front end. So it would behoove you to go aggressively towards building out your project as fast as you could. And that's, we're kind of equally yoked in wanting that as well. This shows you the areas, and I believe the color differentiation is maybe the year when those properties were adopted for RHID. So again, RHID has been widely used around the community, especially in the last decade, to try to build out, extend infrastructure into undeveloped properties and make the most of where we extend our infrastructure. Okay, any questions on housing? The supply and demand curve are still not close to one another. It would be our assumption that our taxing entity partners are still interested in developing housing, still hold it as a priority, if not the priority, facing the community. And you might give some thought as to whether or not you still agree with that or don't agree with that. And at some point in time, you want to take that up as a policy discussion. I'll leave that to you communicating with Dr. Dominguez. Until that point, we're going to continue to operate and visit with developers as if all four entities still want to build houses or apartments. Neighborhood revitalization program. So the assumptions going into this are that this incentive still has the support of existing taxing jurisdictions, and that there is a feature in this where if the project is above a certain dollar amount, and what that dollar amount is right now isn't important because it's different ones depending on if it's residential or commercial. But if it goes over that amount, I will bring up the commercial one. The commercial one I think is 2.5, 3, looking for confirmation, 2.5. If it goes over 2.5, it disqualifies the project. It doesn't cap the benefit. It kicks the project out. So a lot more projects fell under that in the 90s when it was created. It had nothing to let that cap ride for the value of money over time. And we've begun to see project after project after project, which would have been a nice fit for this, get kicked out. They then have to go use, if they want an incentive that provides a similar amount of benefit towards infrastructure costs and those types of things, they have to go to the industrial revenue bond, their tax increment financing district. Those are expensive. $300,000 in attorney fees to get those types of things set up is not out of the norm. And whereas this, it's automatic. You would receive it. It's a shorter number of years. It also comes to the owner and not the developer, but it comes to the owner and they can figure out a way if they plan on building the property and selling it off, they can figure out a way how to monetize that revenue stream later. But it is an income, and so it's a taxable income to whoever owns the property at the time, but nonetheless, still an income. So, but you don't have the upfront expenses of having to hire an attorney to set up your development tool. We think this tool could have been used in several projects, commercial and smaller residential projects over the last few years, and it's simply dated because of that cap and the way that the originating documents were written to where it kicked it completely out rather than just capping the benefit and still allowing it to be eligible. And so this is kind of, our assumption is this is maybe a better situated tool for those smaller to mid-sized commercial and residential projects. So again, I mean, I think I hit all the challenges.
Is that, Matt, if I can ask, is that a state policy question then to update?
No, it's a local one. Yeah, it's a local one. the ability to have one of these is unlocked by the state statute. The terms of it are home rule.
Does that apply for the RHID as well?
Kind of. I mean, you can, the length of the RHID is something that the entities can propose. I mean, that can be negotiated through the development agreement. But the tool itself's defined. And I think, you know, the length of time is probably the only negotiable thing. So our proposed changes would be to this tool, and while this isn't a business item, we are kind of sticking our toe in the pool and checking the temperature of the boards. So if tonight's not the right forum to do that, that's fine. If you could queue it up as a policy discussion at another time, that would help us as we go and look to author the change. We would look to increase the rebate cap. So change the language to adjust at least to what 2.5 million back then would be worth now, or whatever, if it's a housing one, whatever the cap was then. Adjust that for inflation as a starting point, and also to remove kind of that disqualifying language so that any project would be eligible if they wanted to use this and not go through the hassle of setting up something bigger. But the benefit would be capped at whatever that maximum amount would be. We also would like to change this because it does not contemplate a mixed-use development. It either contemplates a residential development or a commercial development. And we're going to see more and more mixed use. And we're going to see more and more vertical construction to be a way to get more front doors per acre. The map I think the map needs scrutiny. There's 2 districts right now, and they vary the level of benefit. The more underserved an area is and where revitalization is more critical, the more benefit it has. You know, if you're out in kind of the path of the growth pattern, it's less so. The idea here is that the map incorporates maybe too much of the city at this point in time, and that isn't consistent with what was anticipated in the statutes when it was created. And so a little more scrutiny going into where the districts are located and which districts fit which. Redevelopment now in a 2022 context or 2023 context is probably different than it was in a 1990. There are some neighborhoods that were probably viewed as, you know, uptown that right now probably need a little help and could stand to be in a district where there was maybe a more aggressive development. Also, an area where there doesn't really need to be any help, or they have all the other tools going in there. Well, higher value projects, they could be left off this altogether. The way this tool works, which would explain the way this is set up, is we have an interlocal agreement between the taxing entities. And then it says how the tool is going to work, the terms of it, and then the city, pass an ordinance. And that's really how this thing, 1, got created and 2 gets changed. There at one point in time has been an amendment to it, but I think it only amended the map, if I'm not mistaken. So if the other 3 taxing entities are all interested in adjusting this tool, we would come back with an interlocal agreement that represented new terms and be able to explain what was in the old one, what's in the new one. And if all 4 bodies approve that, then the commission would be poised to take up an ordinance. And and then I think probably upon publication becomes in effect. So noodle that either now or later as a policy item and get back to us. But I think we're set to maybe take this on and be in a position to bring something back in a couple months if you all are agreeable. Questions on either topic?
I appreciate the update. There's a lot to it, and I look forward to our discussions here to.
Very good. Thank you.
Any correspondence? Move on to the consent agenda.
Madam President, I will have to recuse myself from the consent agenda, but I did want to bring before the board the question of we have personnel on the consent agenda. And I know it's come up in discussions previous about separating some of those things out just on other fronts. So when we've done other approvals where we kind of mix all the staff, whether it's like raises or different things, it's come across the board in conversation about separating those items out. So I wondered if the board, but nothing's ever come of it. It's just been discussion. So I wanted to bring before the board now if we as a board find value in those approvals being on an individual basis. The administrative positions, if those approvals would be, if we would find value in approving those on an individual basis. I did send a text to Jennifer Cunningham to make sure that that was something that was allowable. And she did say it was, not to put any pressure, but just so you know that that is something that we could do as a board. We have the approvals tonight for the 3 positions of admin administrative positions.
And those are the positions that we had tabled, yeah, basically from the previous meeting.
And I know we have a lot on our plates. Maybe this isn't something that we want to decide now in this type of situation. I'm kind of surprising you all with it. So you won't hurt my feelings if this is not something that you want to pursue right now.
I'm comfortable with leaving it on the consent agenda at this point, but I just want to. So
I do see value and merit in separating them. I mean, I don't know too many, everybody who deals in a contract, or whatever, that's done individually per contract. They're not the same. So I do see value in doing that. I can see value in it, I guess. But
that in mind, I'm not sure it's right for removing that item from the consent agenda. At this point. That's policy, sounds like a policy conversation.
I didn't get into probably too much conversation just because it was a text with Jennifer. So that is something maybe we could ask her. She didn't say that that was something that would be policy. We just kind of gave me directions of how to do that. So she didn't bring up policy, but maybe Mark.
I guess my point right now is that we have a consent agenda to consider. And we either pull that item off and talk about it, or we don't. So if maybe that's the purpose, your purpose is to consider that, take a temperature. But we would need to either pull that item off, and move ahead, see consent, and not try to address that issue without taking more steps. Not trying to be big with it,
No.
process.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't find it. Because this was we didn't talk about it, so I'm just kind of pulling it off and how you understand. That's fine. Anybody else? We can just move forward if it's not something that anybody else finds value in. I will recuse myself. Not because of that, but because there are bids that, yes. Okay.
Yeah, I understand.
Just so everybody else understands, yeah.
Well, if we're ready to proceed with the your recusing thing.
Well, I want to make sure there's no other discussion on this.
Anybody else have a comment or question on that?
Okay, then I'm gonna review. Thank you, Dana. Yep.
I would move that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions?
Yeah, just in the matter of discussion of an item that was, Dana just brought up, you know, let's raise it again.
Yeah, I think. Okay, any other questions or comments? Everybody's so chatty tonight. Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passed. Right, Dana?
Yes.
Second, thank you. Okay, board goals update. I believe we have Adam here to present.
Thanks, Mark. They've been waiting patiently.
We had a large group out there.
Yes, we did.
Where the kids just line up here.
Yeah.
That's one still.
Oh, yeah, they can fill anything.
Oh, we want to go out there and talk. Flexibility.
I'm Jenny Hands. I'm your Career and Technical Education Coordinator and District Director for the AVID system. And I have brought along a great
We have a
posse.
group.
These are the coordinators, the teachers, and some of our awesome students from the AVID program. They're the ones that do the actual works. They're the ones I brought in to talk today. So I'm going to introduce Miss Amy Cosper.
So I'm Amy Cosper. I am the site coordinator, also an instructional coach at Garden City High School. Chris Duncan and Macy, I'm going to probably say her name wrong, Younger, are other site coordinators at each of our middle schools. I'm going to give you kind of a brief overview if you're not super familiar with AVID. So you have a kind of card handout, and then we're going to let all these wonderful students who've been hanging out share with you their AVID experience. So AVID Secondary has been in Garden City in some capacity since 2009 at our high school, and the middle schools joined on in 2017. What most people don't realize about AVID is that there's two parts to it. We're AVID school-wide, and then we have an AVID elective class. So all of these lovely people are part of our AVID elective classes. So they choose to take this class to help further them, and they're going to share about what they do in those classes and how that helps them. But from a school-wide standpoint, AVID gives us instructional strategies that are really just good teaching that we can help move no matter the content area. So all of our teachers are trained in them and they use them across the building. We also are guided by what's called a coaching and certification instrument, known as the CCI. So each of our schools has an AVID site team, and we use that as indicators to guide our path. Again, because they're good teaching and they're good instructional strategies, they align to each of our building WIGs. And so we can really tie those together and make sure we're all moving in the same direction. And that way our staff doesn't feel like, oh, but this is happening here and that's happening there. We're all going in the same, on the same path. So for staff professional development, for the last 4 years now, we've done onboarding for new staff as part of our new teacher training. We take a whole day for our new teachers in 7 through 12 to catch them up kind of and give them that introduction so they have the same language. They know those strategies. We call it WICR. So there's writing, inquiry, organization, collaboration, and reading. So everything we do in AVID falls under one of those 5 things. On our walkthrough tools that administrators use and our coaches use, we have those strategies as well. So again, it's all working together. In addition, we've been able to do what's called path training. Every 3 years is the idea behind that. So we started in 2019. We also had one this past September. We bring AVID presenters here. There's a whole slew of them that come, and they do content specific. So science teachers get to learn how to implement AVID strategies in science and social studies. Our admin and our leadership, Dr. Dominguez, got to join us in September, and we take it from that standpoint too. And so that gets us to where we can train a large portion of our staff every 3 years. As we all know, staff turnover is inevitable. So again, we stay on that right path. The last part of professional development is every year we send a group to what's called Summer Institute. That's typically our site coordinators and our AVID elective teachers are usually who attend that to further their knowledge and their training on those specific things that they do day in and day out with the kids. On the bottom left side, you can kind of see our stats for that actual elective class. So across our 3 buildings, we have 195 students enrolled in various sections. We currently at the high school, our senior AVID elective class actually is not meeting this semester because they all, well, over 50% of them graduated early and are doing other things. So we had like 2 kids left in that elective class. So that's a good problem to have by the time they get to senior year. And that's really our goal, is that they're moving on to some form of higher ed. We have some kids doing technical ed, but they're all moving on to the next chapter of their life. So any questions on the overview before I let them share? I know I probably talk fast. Hey guys, take it away. So they're going to introduce themselves as they go and share about their AVID experience.
Hi, I'm Aubrey.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are in the 7th grade AVID program. AVID is a way to help us organize our schoolwork ourselves and help us prepare for college eligibility and other events that come later in lifetime. AVID gives us help with how to do our career choices later on in our futures.
Organization takes a big role in AVID. Therefore, students are assigned a binder to keep all of their graded work and notes organized. Students are expected to keep the binder up to date with monthly binder checks. The binders give the students an extra resource when studying for a quiz or big test. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we have tutorials. The purpose of tutorial is to let students lead small study groups to get us ready for studying without a professor. Before tutorial, we have to write down our main question and work through it to find our point of view.
In AVID, we do lots of organization like Jackie just described. We also talk about college choices and what type of college we think would fit us. For example, we did presentations on different college types. It's a great way to keep our options open by learning new information about these college types and how they better our.
What I enjoy about AVID is that everyone in class is really close and it feels like a second family at school.
What I enjoy most about AVID is the way we work together to help create new ideas of getting information from classes. AVID gives us new goals and helps us achieve goals in life. It's a great opportunity to help figure out how to better understand your future. Thank you.
Yes, slide to the ends. Well done. You can see now.
Hi, I am Kevin Valdez Gomez, and I am a student at Horace Good Middle School.
Hi, my name is Mario Martabaca, and I'm from Horace Good Middle School. I'm 7th grade.
AVID isn't just any ordinary elective. AVID is a tool that will get me in my classes to a higher level. AVID stands for Advanced via Individual Determination. It helps me get a better understanding of what college classes would look like. AVID also helps me be better organized. It guides me to points of confusion and practically helps me be a better person. We do these very interesting activities such as TRFs. TRFs are helping tools that are done with a group, but you have to ask questions in order to help them. And we read these fascinating books like The Princess Bride, and we're currently reading Chasing Lincoln's Killer. AVID is a class that is most definitely available in high school, and it helps a person stay organized, be a better note taker, and find colleges. Most of all, make you a better person. Thank you very much.
In AVID, we take notes, do TRFs, and focus notes. We also read books. It also helps me take notes and stay organized with my stuff and my bag. What I like about AVID is when we read books and do activities together that involve teamwork. And what I like about AVID, yeah, that's
Hi, my name is Aaron Garcia. I'm an 8th grader at Kenneth Henderson Middle School. I've been about in the AVID program for about 2 years now. We've done a lot of things, but one of the things that we've mostly done is community service. One of the community service that we've done is when we're short of custodian staff, we would like to go out, help them out and pick up trash for them, make their life a little bit easier.
My name is Luis Rojas Garcia, and it's my first year in AVID. And some things we've done was clean up and help custodians out, help around our school. And some things we also did for our army was raise money and help people that are in need and handicapped and stuff like that.
We've also picked up around like the school, picking up around the trash that are outside. We do that so we have cleaner grass, so the grass isn't dead. We do this also for visitors and guests to make sure that we represent KH and Garden City good.
Hi, I'm Daniela Ortegon and I am an 8th grade AVID student in Horsegood Middle School. I have been in AVID for 2.5 years. This is my first full year in AVID. Hi, I'm an 8th grade AVID student in Mr. Anaya's AVID class. My experience in his class has been wonderful and great. I love how we all get together during our TRFs and our group learning while reading books. We all get together and we share our ideas together and we share how we can work together as better groups. We share ideas for new activities or better things for us to do around school. Fun Fridays is probably my best day because it's the end of the day and we'll always get together and have fun together. We have our disagreements, but we put smiles on each other's faces and we help each other out. Thank you, Mr. Anaya, for putting up with us this year.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brooklyn Briggs. I'm an 8th grade AVID student at HDMS. I enjoy being an AVID. It has helped me so much become organized and being able to talk to big crowds. My favorite memory has to be guest speakers and learning about your jobs and Fun Fridays, being able to share fun memories with my AVID family.
Good evening. My name is Daniela Lopez and I am an AVID student at Horsegood Middle School. I have been a member of AVID for 3 years. As AVID participants, we received the opportunity to expand our journey for college prep. TRFs and focused note-taking skills are 2 main activities in AVID. Every Friday, our teacher, Mr. Anaya, encourages us to dedicate ourselves to write a TRF. I started this school year as a new student from Liberal, and knowing I would continue my AVID career helped me have a sense of belonging.
Hi, my name is Lily and I'm an 8th grader at Horsegood. Even though this is my first year in AVID, I felt welcome right away. This class has helped me keep my grades up and stay organized. Over this year, I've learned how to take focused notes, keep my binder organized, and be a better student overall. Every week we do TRFs, we present them to each other and help each other problem solve. We share ideas with Socratic circles, and right now we're reading a book called Freedom Writers. Even though I joined in the second quarter of school, it's really nice to have a class where you can catch up and collaborate with each other. Overall, I really enjoy AVID because it's a class where everyone supports each other.
Mr. Anaya and I wanted to take a moment to address you. We are the 2 AVID teachers at Horsegood Middle School, and we were awarded a mini grant last week to purchase a class set of, you always have the title.
It's called How to Be a Change Maker. So it's a book that just helps guide students on finding different projects that they're passionate about and making a difference in their community.
And so our goal is to start incorporating that in the spring of their 7th grade year. But this coming school year, we're going to teach it in fall to the 8th graders and then spring to the 7th graders so that their entire 8th grade AVID year can be focused on building those projects for themselves.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Before I introduce myself, I would like to thank all of you for giving your precious time to listening to us. My name is Jada Martinez. I'm a 9th grader attending Garden City High School, and we're here today to talk about AVID. The reason why I joined AVID was very simple reason. My 8th grade ELA teacher, Mrs. Robinson, recommended me to join AVID, and I said, sure, why not? And I took AVID, and it was a great decision that I made. AVID helps me with note taking because before AVID, I used to write down everything the teacher would say and only focus on writing word for word what they were saying, but not retaining the information they were teaching. But once I joined AVID, Mr. Bernfin taught me to take quick notes and jot down the key ideas of each lesson so I can retain information when looking back at my notes. So overall, I'm happy that I joined AVID and it helps me. Thank you.
My name is Jayla Rigdon. I'm a 9th grader from the high school of Garden City, high school. And today I'm going to be talking about how AVID has put me a long way to where I am today. It helps me write notes that helps me be very organized with my work, and where I don't have to write everything what the teacher says. Usually I would take notes, like take pictures and write them all down like at home, and realize that that's just wasting my time and it's gonna make me fall back in my work of other classes. So Mr. Bernfin taught me that it's just easier if we use our notes that what's in front of us and just write them quickly down and use what we got right in front of us, because what you write down is what you're going to remember and use them for what's actually important in front of you. And I love the group work that we get to do in AVID. The group work that we do it helps us connect with everyone and get to know one another, and it's a really fun class that I took, and I'm really glad that I took AVID.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Raquel and I'm Aileen, and we're from the junior AVID class at the Garden City High School. We have been in AVID since our freshman year. 4 years. No, 3 years now. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and one thing that I like about AVID is the experiences that it lets its students have. Recently in March, we normally do an annual basketball game that is against the students and teachers. And so that really helped us talk to different teachers, meet new students, and like actually put ourselves out there during our lunch shifts and recruiting people to be part of the halftime and just putting ourselves out there. And that's what I really like about it.
Yeah, as long as with being able to communicate well and just be able to express yourself in a way that other people can understand, and you could also like have a nice communication, as well as like how Jada and the rest of the group said, note taking, like even test taking skills, like the teachers here are really good at like expressing themselves and like explaining how things should be, like how can we learn.
How we can learn better,
how we can learn better. And it's honestly like over the 3 years that I've been here, it's helped me a lot, even especially with note taking, because like they said, we would like hear the teacher and we would be messed up. We would not know what we should be studying for tests and quizzes, and we wouldn't really learn anything. But once we got in AVID, well, personally, I got much better in my grades. I've seen my GPA like go up like crazy. And yeah.
So thanks to Bern.
Yeah. And all the teachers of AVID.
Yes.
Yeah. So
thank you.
You want to say anything, Mr. Bernfin? Star of our basketball game on Friday.
Oh, I was. I did want to point out for Jay in particular, who was our ninth grade student here. She was not actually an Avid to begin the year, and she advocated for herself, asked to be an Avid multiple times. We were able to get through a process. So I kind of want to point that out because I thought it was a really good sign of that she's going to be successful in her life. She advocated for us that. And I want to thank everybody who came today. I had no idea what Avid was when I first started teaching 4 years ago, and I've really been jumped into it, and the students have all been fantastic. And this group is another example of how fantastic they are. So thank you guys.
I think that is all we have. If you guys have any questions, we'll be happy to try and answer them.
Okay,
you go.
Several people mentioned TRFs. What is that? Or did I miss that?
TRFs are tutorial request forms. So tutorials are basically study groups where you get groups of students together in class on a whiteboard where they put a problem on the board, and their study group with them is to help them guide them to the answer, not tell them the answer, but guide them to the answer. And tutorial request form is what their pre-work, the stuff they do before the tutorial to show me and their group that they're prepared with as much as knowledge as they can bring to the table while still being confused about what their problem is.
I think the best example I have with seventh graders is a young man worked through his tutorial request form. His initial question was, what are adjectives? And by the end of it, he had realized, I can't find the nouns. I can't find adjectives if I don't know what nouns are. So the TRF was able to guide me and him, okay, what's the actual problem here? Rather than them just saying, I don't get the whole thing.
What I tell my students about TRFs is it's a worksheet that you've never done before. Every other worksheet you've done in your entire life, you're trying to find the answer. With TRFs, you're trying to find a problem. What are you missing? What are you confused about? And we call it the point of confusion is the very end. So it's very different. Metacognition is very different than what they're used to, but it is helpful once they get to it. It is hard.
And it's, I would say, the main way Avid develops that individual determination. We really are trying to develop those skills in our students so they can be successful and be advocates. And our Avid students are very much advocates of themselves in all classes in the best way.
Well, I know we were really excited to get Avid into the middle schools. So that, I mean, this is a great representation of the use and the students really liking the program. My question is you mentioned that students have to be referred to get into the class. What is the process to be in an Avid class?
So both middle schools do what we call recruitment. And then the high school goes and does middle school recruitment. It's basically we have an application. Counselors can recommend students, but really the student starts the application. Part of that application is a teacher referral. I will say very rarely do we turn kids away. I don't know that we have had to in recent years. If they go through the steps to want to be there, we make it happen. I know at the high school this year, we actually added a sophomore section to accommodate. Mr. Burnfin's doing such a great job freshman year, they all want to stay. So we have had to expand. So there's an application process. It has, basic information. It has an essay question. And then they're asked to get 2 teacher referrals.
Is Avid a program that you stay with all the way through your senior year?
Ideally, yes. We do let them exit. In order to exit, they actually have to go through an exit process, which currently ends with an in-person interview with Dr. Duncan at the high school. Not very many kids go that far once they realize what they have to do. But we really encourage the longevity. I know at the high school, our biggest challenge sometimes is students who are really involved, and it does take an elective every semester. And so our kids who are in band and choir and art and all of these, or have a CTE pathway that they're after, sometimes we do have scheduling conflicts. And when that happens, sometimes we'll even let them kind of sit out for a semester. And then when their schedule allows, let them back in.
I would just want to, go for an answer.
I'd like to add the exit process isn't isn't made to be, you know, something that just holds them in and doesn't let them out. It's really intended and designed to help the student reflect on what Abbott actually has helped them do. And typically during that process, they realize that they are not ready to leave Abbott.
That's exactly what I
That's
was
a
gonna say,
great,
so thank you.
yeah. Thank you for that addition. That's very true.
Well, I would like to thank all of you instructors too, because it's not like just from their presentations, they really appreciate you and you've made a difference in their lives. And, you know, that's sometimes the biggest thing. I work at the college and I've had students literally say, this one person made me believe that I could be here because I wasn't doing well in school. I'm not a good student, but that one person, and it sounds like you are already having that impact on the students. So thank you.
And I think unfortunately, none of our seniors could be here. Couldn't track any of them down this time frame. But I know our senior class in December, we met with them. And their big thing is Avid becomes family because they have been a class. You know, you lose a few along the way due to other things, but they rely on each other too.
Nice.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you for your support.
Fourth grade social studies curriculum. I don't know where anybody's sitting tonight. We'll let them get out of here.
Unfortunately, that's a tough act to follow. We're actually going to start with elementary PE tonight.
Okay.
Just because I think you saw in the board packet, that's kind of what I had first in the PowerPoint. I do something to make that happen.
No, yeah, it's just opening probably his first time. I think it's.
Okay. So this year, we actually had two curriculums that we were working to adopt. Physical education and K-4 history. We're going to talk about elementary physical education this meeting. We'll talk about high school at the next board meeting. We haven't quite finalized everything on that. And then for the K-4 history, I'll explain a little bit more about why it's not broader when we get to that. So first one we're going to talk about is elementary PE. For our process, I started out by surveying all staff in October. I was kind of looking for who's interested in serving on the adoption committee and reviewing curriculums. In November, I contacted those volunteers about serving on the committee. We selected which curriculums they would like to look at and arranged for those presentations to happen on January 3rd, which was our district in-service day. So on that day, our committee saw presentations from Quaver and also from Spark. In February, they came to this office and spent a day. We met with the Spark representative again and made a final decision that we took to Curriculum Council in March, and we're here in April. So we did create a rubric to evaluate the curriculums. And it just contained items that the teachers felt like these are priority things that curriculums that we adopt should have. And we want to evaluate those curriculums on those criteria. In the end, the committee selected Spark. Spark has two separate curriculums. They have a K2 and they have a 3-6. It is a teacher resource, so it is not something that we're going to have student workbooks or anything like that. It's just a resource that teachers can get in. It gives them unit plans, student activity cards. There's videos to implement games and activities. There's assessments, and there's also social emotional learning supports. Within each of those units, there's over 500 activities that are categorized by the physical activity that you're looking for. So there might be catching and throwing, or jumping, balance, games, recess activities. But it also has a social emotional learning component on how they can support those skills within those games and activities. And they also have some holiday themed things. They have special activities in the event that you're in a smaller space. So it just has kind of a pretty wide variety. For the committee members, priority items for them that it was user-friendly. It has an online component for the teacher. We all know there's some instructors that are a little less comfortable with technology, so it also has a hardbound paper copy that each instructor could get. But it has lesson plans as well as videos that support, if they're wanting to do something new or different, the videos would support them in being able to teach that. The SEL components help to teach kids emotional learning as well as social responsibility. And there's the abundance of resources within each unit that the teachers felt were a real strength. Our committee members were Stephen Lynch, Kimberly Freeland, Mike Hill is here today, and Adam Regier. So we had 4 elementary teachers that served on this committee. Do you have any additional questions?
I'm a little more curious, or maybe some more information on the social emotional aspect of the curriculum. Do you have examples of that or specifics of?
Can you answer that better than me, Mike?
So I'll be honest with you, I didn't look too much, for me at least, into the social emotional learning aspect of it, because right now at Bernie, since where I'm at, we have capturing kids' heart. And so I didn't look too much into their social emotional learning part of it. I will tell you, I just glanced at it. There's lots of different activities. In the gym, there are a ton of things that can happen. Kids get mad when they get hit with the ball accidentally. Just glancing through it, part of it, it teaches them how to react to that, how to not take it so personal. So it has its benefits. I went through it. We had a trial, they extended it for us up until the end of March, and I forgot it was at the end of March. And so this morning I got on there to look for basketball activity. It's like, no, it's gone, but it is a great resource. I've been here 17 years and we've never had anything like this for the PE department, ever. We've really never, ever had that much of a curriculum. We've kind of done our own thing. And I think this just puts it to where everybody can be on the same page all across the board. I mean, very, very beneficial. I really enjoyed using it. I've printed up already a ton of stuff just from the preview they gave us that I use every week. We printed up some basketball skills. We printed up some, we do Movement Monday at my school. So we printed up activity cards for it. It is absolutely phenomenal. By far, one of the best curriculum I've seen for us. And I really, like I said, I really enjoyed it. The other PE teachers at my building also enjoyed it as well. And like she said, it's really easy to use, very, very friendly to use on the app. Download it. We downloaded the app on our iPad. We can take it everywhere we go. It just makes it really, really handy. So.
A little bit to your question, Jennifer. I know Kimberly Freeland and I had spoke about some of the SEL units that she was using. Some of the gameplay and strategy things that you do with kids in competition to kind of promote that, work together as a team and to strategize to be able to win the game. So there's, components like that just naturally fit within gameplay. So
like a sample lesson that I just pulled up very quickly, the SEL that's incorporated in kindergarten, the game of snakes and lizards, is what does this mean for someone to show self-control? So it's just asking questions that are aligned to the CASTLE, which is the 5 social emotional learning standards of responsible decision-making, self-control, self-awareness. There's 5 different components that all of our SEL components or all of our SEL curriculums have to be under. So the second one is how can you apply self-control during physical education class? And then the last one on their social emotional, why is it important to drink water during and after physical activity? So those are the 3 SEL questions that are at the end of the lesson.
And Heather, it's team and individual sports also, right?
Yeah. They break down like, throwing and catching before you get into a baseball unit. So it gives you the individual skills before you get into the gameplay.
And just, real quick, sorry. But just from my experience, I've been at, this is my 17th year. I've had a lot of different teachers in and out of the gym with me. I've had a long-term sub for 3 years. And when they come in and they don't know what to do, it's nice to be able to say, hey, this is our curriculum, instead of saying, hey, this is what I've done in the past. Now I would actually have a curriculum to say, hey, this is our curriculum, you know, this is what we're gonna follow, this is gonna help guide us through the year. Instead of just saying, hey, this is my unit plan, you know, this is what we do, just kind of get in with me, you know, help me, make sure nobody's doing what we're supposed to be doing, you know, and so it just made it a whole lot easier. It really has. You know.
And that's something that we talked about, you know, even with this committee is we had experienced teachers on this selection committee. But look at this curriculum from the eyes of a brand new teacher who's coming in here knowing very little. And is this a resource they can pick up and they can go with and would support them in getting some good learning activities in front of kids? So.
You know, and you know, we've used at my level, we've used you know, the 3rd through 6th grade. Loved all the activities so far we've used. We've even gone into some of the middle school lessons, you know, for our older 6th grade groups, you know, and I mean, just easy to use. You know, we can put a video on their iPad because everybody has iPads now. You know, we can put a video on their iPad through Shobi or through Google Classroom, teaching them how to, you know, dribble and teaching them the different, you know, things they need to learn how to dribble. And everybody has it at their fingertips. You know, I mean, so it just makes it very beneficial to use, very easy. So.
Any other questions?
This we use district-wide
This would be K through 6.
in all the schools.
Yes, but in all schools, yes. Yep. And like he said, they did let us pilot this program. So we had that from probably November until March 31st. So Friday was the last day.
Yeah.
They were no longer able to access it. So.
It's been really helpful. It really has.
Yeah, they've been so excited about it. I've had to call our representative a couple times and ask, hey, can you extend that pilot a little bit? And they've been very easy to work with and very willing to do that. So, but they're excited about the opportunity to have it, you know, start the school year next year. So, okay. Thank you, Mike. Do you have any additional questions? Okay. All right. K4 history. Just to give you a little history. Yeah. Last year we had history textbook adoption because we were going to be implementing math, a new math curriculum at the elementary schools. They were a little hesitant to take on a new history curriculum at the same time. So we pushed K4 history back to this year. We limited the history adoption last year to grades 5 through 12. Last year, they did adopt TCI in grades 5 through 12. That's going to be important here in a minute. So the history standards for the state of Kansas are basically 5 concepts. Choices have consequences. Individuals have rights and responsibilities. Societies are shaped by the identities, beliefs, and practices of individuals and groups. Societies experience continuity and change over time. And relationships among people, places, ideas, and environments are dynamic. So those are the same 5 standards that we have at every grade level for history. Now we visit those standards within certain themes at each grade level. So at kindergarten, we visit those themes under sense of self. For 1st grade, it's the concept of families. 2nd grade, it's then and now, meaning past and present. 3rd grade, communities, meaning local history. And 4th grade is Kansas regions and regions of the United States. So those 5 original concepts are all visited under those themes each year. So for the K4 adoption process, we started it the same way. I surveyed staff. I got a lot of feedback from staff that there is not a lot of designated social studies time in their day, which does not lend itself to a full curriculum. A full curriculum, you really need to be doing it 30 to 60 minutes a day, and there is not that kind of time in social studies at the grade schools. A little bit more history. When we adopted ELA curriculum at the grade schools, we selected Benchmark because it has history stories in it that the committee at that time felt like addressed their history needs. So when we, got this process started, it made me go back to principals and ask, hey, are you going to be increasing the amount of time you have social studies next year? What are your plans? And no one has time in their schedule to increase the social studies time. So in further discussions with principals, what they felt is that K through 3, they would like to continue doing what they're currently doing, which is using benchmark and other classroom resources to support the social studies standards. And at the grade 4, it's a little bit different because we take the state assessment in grade 4. And grade 4 state assessment is a performance assessment. So they are given a question that they have to pick a side on, and then they have to find evidence that supports their opinion and be able to express their opinion with evidence and reasons why they believe what they believe. We really felt like we needed to get a resource in teachers' hands so that they have something to support being able to implement that state assessment. So what we're recommending is that we adopt no curriculum on grades K3. We continue doing what we're doing, but on grade 4, we align with what grades 5 through 12 are doing and adopt TCI for grades 4. So.
About that, one of the comments that came across or came to me from, and it must have been through that K through 3 and a new teacher, is that there was no guidance or curriculum for that grade. And so when you say continue doing what we're doing, that concerns me a little bit, because I'm not sure that that those teachers, or maybe it was the new teacher part of that, that they have direction or feel confident in how they should use that current curriculum.
Sure. I would, if you want to share names with me later, I'd be happy to reach out to them, but I would maybe guide them to their principals first, because different principals, some of them are really pushing that it's benchmark all the way, because that they had served on the committee that selected benchmark and knew that that was what was decided when they purchased benchmark, was that that would support the social studies curriculum.
Okay, so what you're telling me is each individual building kind of has leeway with how they want to do that.
How they're implementing it.
Because benchmark curriculum.
Some are also purchasing social studies weekly, which is a periodical that comes, and I can't tell you without going back to my computer and looking up the survey, but I think there's probably 2 to 3 buildings that are doing just benchmark, and the rest are benchmark and supplementing with some social studies weekly.
And so why do you think there's a difference with that? Like one is supplementing and one isn't?
I think it probably comes down to whether or not there's just a little bit of extra time in the day, and they're wanting to fill that extra time with the periodicals.
And just remember, tonight is the presentation on it. It'll be on consent agenda at the next board meeting for approval. So if there are follow-up questions that you have between now and then, please get them to mostly Heather, or if you get them to me, I can get them to Heather as well to have those answered.
You see the TCI curriculum going to the K through 3 down the road, that recommendation, or is it just the recommendation to just stay with benchmark for K through 3, transition to TCI from 4 to 12?
And we were encouraging for the grade 4 because of the assessment. Our department's taking the recommendation of the principals for K through 3, and our adoption cycle is 7 years. So this would be what we follow through with for the next 7 years.
We also believe from the office standpoint a little bit is that as you've seen throughout our data, some of our foundational skills in reading and math, we need to close those gaps as much and as early as possible. And that takes a lot of time. And so about 120 minutes a day is what we are spending on ELA or reading skills during the day. So units 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 in benchmark are nonfiction units that all have the social studies standards incorporated into them. So half of what they're doing in ELA time is a nonfiction approach. So unit 1 in every grade level on benchmark is about communities and self, meaning they learn about police, they learn about city government, they learn about some civic engagement in unit 1 across benchmark in every grade level. So we have more than enough content to meet the needs of social studies within that time. Time is precious within a day when we have about 400 minutes of instruction time during the day, and 120 minutes of that is going to be used for reading time to be able to have those foundational skills, plus an additional 90 for math. You've eaten up 210 minutes already in an instructional day for elementary teachers for just those two subject areas. So we do feel very confident that social studies is important as concepts to teach, especially around civic engagement, but we do feel like the resource provides the opportunities to hit those skills as in depth as they can. At the same time, balancing, we need students to be able to read and understand numbers, maybe as important or maybe a little bit more important than some of those early civic engagement skills that they can learn later. If we get to 4th, 5th, 6th grade and we can't read and be able to make choices and understand societies and understand how to pull multiple pieces of evidence together from a text, because we're unable to read that text on grade level, it's not going to do us a lot of good. So we do want to be able to make sure that K through 3, we're really building a good, strong foundation that we can build a good educational house on later.
What are the reading minutes? You said 90 minutes of math, and what is it for ELA?
120, so they have a 90-minute ELA block and a 30-minute intervention block.
Yes. For grades 5.
So where we are considering this curriculum, again, it's primarily to make sure we have the resources necessary for 4th grade and as they prepare. But it sounds like other than that, we got what we need. And
If we weren't giving state assessment from 4th grade, I think the principal's recommendation is that we wouldn't add it for 4th grade as well. But in the state assessment area, we felt like we needed to make sure that we had, as Heather stated a couple of times, a resource that was a little bit richer in social studies content than what Benchmark is. Benchmark's a very good content producer in nonfiction, but it may not have the same richness and depth of the history standards that TCI would when we're in a state assessed grade.
Benchmark. These are some of our benchmark materials that go I just pulled a few of the social studies units. This is like 3 or 4 different grades, but I had a few minutes before the meeting and I got into our storage closet and just pulled ones that go along with social studies themes. So you could kind of see, that would be the benchmark ELA curriculum that we're currently using to kind of supplement those social studies themes. So.
and these aren't the periodic.
No.
The periodicals sound like a really great thing for those that are interested in it.
And those are a lot of times it's in an enrichment type environment. So the students that maybe don't need some of the intervention work get to do that kind of once a week and engage in some of the current events and or topics that come in those scholastic social studies weeklies.
Principal surveys for K through 3, only one principal was interested in having the full curriculum. 3 principals did want the curriculum for 4th grade, but in discussions that Jason and I had, we just really felt like to complete a performance-based assessment, you need more than the length of material that we have in our benchmark materials. If kids are going to research and find evidence that supports a position, they're going to need more than a 4 to 5 page article. And if we really want there to be depth of discussion, take a stand in 1 or 2 different views, you've got to have enough information presented to cover both perspectives. So we felt like the full curriculum would do that better than what Benchmark's doing.
We approved TCI last year for 5 through 12.
Yes.
Do you have feedback from the teachers or from the staff or students? I mean, how that curriculum is being utilized? Is it working?
Yeah, and that was a continuation of what they had already. So that was just that kind of, it was a second gen version of what they had. And so we have not gotten any feedback opposite of that. I mean, the feedback has been, it's been very nice to have the classroom sets and some of the materials that they have access to. So we haven't received any of the negative feedback for sure.
Do you have any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vision board discussion. Video board discussion. Vision.
Same thing. handouts. Looks like. All the info. So, thanks for having me. We've been talking about this for a while. Obviously, we've talked about the video board at the football field is obsolete. We struggle to even get it turned on anymore. If you come out to a soccer game, we can't get it flipped on for soccer. So it's time to replace. We've talked a little bit about this. You guys tasked me with going out and getting our 4 big sponsors. We've been able to do that. We're into the 2nd tier and the 3rd tier sponsors. Our community has been very supportive of this project. The community members, especially at the top level, see it more as a partnership than just advertising itself. Some examples of things that we hope to do with our video boards inside the gym. One of our anchor sponsors is Livewell Finney County. And talking with Callie and Donna at Livewell Finney County, we've always struggled as a district and as a community in Southwest Kansas to host big events where we can bring in multiple schools and host not 500, 600, 700 kids, but 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 kids at big events with big guest speakers. And we've struggled to host that because we don't have anything that can hold something like that with the capability of video board and those sorts of things. And talking with Callie and Donna, one thing that they're excited about and why they wanted to be a part of this was they would be able to come into Garden City High School, bring in Lake and bring in Holcomb, bring in Southwestern Heights and Sublette and Cimarron, and bring in these big guest speakers that are generally very expensive, that we can't go and put at every single small school in Western Kansas. We can now bring them in. If we do this project, we can bring them into Garden City High School and have a single big place to host those sorts of events. And talking with Tyson, I mean, obviously I talked to you guys before about Tyson. Tyson's big thing is they're going to be able to advertise employment opportunities. One of the Tyson employees was at Dodge City last year, and they noticed at Dodge City that Cargill, the commercial Cargill runs at all Dodge City high school events as an employment commercial. So they're excited to be able to do the same thing within our community and connect with our community members in that way. One of the sponsors is currently right now it's the Clarion end, but it's Cecil O'Brayton and his group. And obviously with their sports facility coming in, they're excited to be able to advertise that new sports facility. They're going to have targeted ads at all those community members coming in, talking about what they have going on out at their big project on the east side of town and ways of generating excitement to bring in those communities. And then the last one of the anchor sponsors is American Implement. American Implement, in all honesty, they're just great supporters of Garden City High School. I mean, the amount of stuff that American Implement does for us in our community, between Dwayne and Kathy and Chad and everything the Costers do for us, you know, not very many times do we go and see the Costers and do they tell us no. They understand how important it is to give back to the community. And Chad was actually the one kind of driving this. He's wanted to do this for a long time, especially inside the gym. And so these conversations were had, you know, we've got our anchor sponsors. We've got right now 4 contracts out on our 2nd tier sponsors for the 6. At the bottom level, we've got another 5 of the 6 contracts out. So it's been a good process. It's went smooth, a lot smoother than I anticipated. And kind of like Dr. Dominguez caught me the other day and he said, well, if you say it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I mean, it can't not happen. So we're making it happen. It's been good. The community support has been great. And now it's time to hammer down what we want to do for a board, both in the gym and on the football field and get that thing ordered so that we can have it for the first of the year next year when our fall sports roll out. So in front of you, it's kind of like we did with the turf. We had a small group. We got the small group together. We looked at Daktronics. We looked at ScoreVision. We looked at Nevco. Daktronics is really the one that kind of came out on top. I really liked the idea of what Score Vision was doing. Score Vision has a very friendly operating system to operate their boards. They're out of Omaha, Nebraska. The problem that we ran into with Score Vision, what they do is they go and buy boards. So they may buy a Samsung, they may buy a Mitsubishi board, they just buy LED boards and then convert those boards into video boards for athletic events. The problem that we ran into with that is the servicing of the boards. We may have Samsung in the gym and a Mitsubishi out on the football field if we went with Score Vision. That can be problematic. The other problem that we ran into with Score Vision is the audio system. They don't do audio systems, so we would have to subcontract out on a whole different contract. We would subcontract out our audio system out at the football field. That's not something I thought and the committee thought was a really advantageous thing to do, because then you're mixing groups and mixing pieces and parts. The last thing is the installation project process out at the football field. The two current I-beams that we have out there, we wouldn't use those. We'd have to get rid of those, and they want a 4-beam system with a truss system on the back, all that stuff. It kind of created. We have long jump pits on the back side of our scoreboard. We'd be putting a truss system over the long jump pits with the ladder that comes out on the long jump pits. That's not real feasible for us with the type of board they were wanting to use out there. The other company we looked at was Nevco. Honestly, the two things that Nevco, the reason why we didn't like Nevco or like Nevco as much, the quality of the board. If you've ever been to Fort Hays State University, that's a Nevco board. The whites are really dull whites. The color of the board doesn't put out great color. Those of you that have been to Fort Hays State University know, and talking in our committee, that's kind of the big thing that we struggled with a lot, was we were going to buy this board, and then they've had all kinds of problems at Fort Hays State with that board, and so it really turned quite a few of the committee members off. The other thing was the sound system. They don't do sound systems, so again, we would have to subcontract out the sound system. Whereas Daktronic can handle all those things in-house for similar prices. And so that's why we're recommending Daktronics. Out at the football field, it was asked last time, what size board are we going to do at the football field? This is a replacement at the football field. We're not going any larger. The JUCO's board is substantially larger than what this board is. In order to go larger, we would have to add more beams, construction, the price of steel, all those things. I mean, we could do it, and over the 10 years, we could pay for it. I just don't, in talking with Mr. Norby, we just don't think that that's really the right direction we want to go. A replacement out at the football field is really more what we're looking at. It is a little bit bigger board. Currently on the side of our board, we have advertisements. Obviously, we're removing the advertisements on the side of the board, putting the ads at the top of the board. At the top of our current board, it says Home of the Buffaloes. We're taking that off. Everybody knows it's the Home of the Buffaloes. It's kind of redundant. And just going with those advertisements across the top. Down at the bottom, we're keeping the current scoreboard that we have. We'll continue to use the current scoreboard at the bottom of it. Personally, I have a little reservation about just going video only, because if the video board doesn't work, we can't have a game. So that's why we're keeping the scoreboard at the bottom of it. In the gym, on the back of it, same advertisements that you guys saw last time. And then in the gym, same board that I showed you last time. The only thing that we're doing a little bit different, we're going to get rid of all other sponsors in the gym that are located up here. And we're just going with our 4 anchor sponsors up on the gym rails to kind of clean things up and make things a little bit less advertising in the gym. So it'll clean up those things. The board, the bottom right, you can see that's what will be on the back of the board. You're not going to walk in. If you see the back of Garden City JUCO's board, it's just the back of a video board. On the back of ours, we're getting a cover, a hard cover, not a soft shell cover, but a hard cover that if you see our cover now, it rips and tears in the wind. This is a hard shell cover. These are backlit lights, backlit signs, both on the top and on the bottom, so that they can see them at night. And then in the gym, we'll have the same thing, a hardcover on the back of the video board, so that you don't walk into the back of a video board. Our hope is eventually, if you've been to the high school lately, we have a lot of state trophies. We're continuing to get more and more state trophies. Our hope is that what we'll do on the back side of that is turn that into like a champions hall and go in and remove all our trophies, all our championship trophies from the trophy cases in the commons and decorate the back of that, put in trophy cases, make it look really nice and make it more, as you walk in, you're walking in and seeing all our state championship trophies, you know, pictures of our state champion athletes, those sorts of things. But that's more of a long range, you know, eventually that's where we would like to get back. The other thing that we've looked at, Steve and I have talked about, we do have to replace our score tables in the gym. We've looked at two different options on there. You'll see two different options. One is a Daktronic LED board score table. The other is a static sign score table. We've talked a lot about whether we should do something like this. A lot of people are moving towards something like this. It is a little more expensive, but what it would allow us to do is, and that's Dodge Cities that they have, it's the exact same one. We would be looking at it's 30 feet of LED board. It would integrate into the video board. What that would allow us to do is at graduation, we can put that up on the graduation stage, and we can scroll the names of the kids graduating across it. At games, one of the problems we have with wrestling is where the scoreboards are located. It's hard to see scores when you wrestle. This would allow us to have the scores on the score tables, so it's a little bit easier to see. Volleyball, we have the same issue when you're separating the score tables off. It's hard to tell which score goes to which matches. So that would alleviate some of that. It would also allow us to pull all the rest of the signage in the gym down, and it would allow us to use that as the signage and not have actual signage hanging up in the gym outside of those 4 anchor sponsors. So you have two different quotes and all the details in the quotes. You have the first one that is with the LED score table, and you have the second one without the LED score table. The only thing I need from you is kind of direction on what direction you guys as a board would like to go with the project. And any questions, obviously.
On these quotes, these are in addition to all the fundraising you've done.
No, the fundraising pays for that quote. So all the fundraising that we've done pays for that. So the district will not be out any money. We've raised enough money to cover all expenses plus.
Either one, I mean, there's a difference there.
Yeah, we could buy 2 of them.
I appreciate the time you put into it. You've
Been a lot of work.
And it helps to be able to say it's going to get paid for, because that's the feedback I get the most is how can you be spending district money on that? And so.
And it won't be, I mean, technically it will be, but ultimately all of it was raised outside of the district. The district, state dollars from the district will not be used on this project. And that's, I will tell you, not very many districts are able to do that, so. Dodge City, Junction City, Manhattan, Derby, they all use district dollars to fund their video boards.
To work your committee and I feel like you're been cost conscious in areas where you could be.
Yeah.
At least you gave me that impression.
It was, I mean, because there was really some conversation about, Dana brought it up. And she's right, we don't need something like the JUCO. We don't need something that big. It doesn't really make sense. I mean, that video board out there it's massive. I mean, it's huge compared to what we're looking at. It's massive.
I do have another question that I should, and I think you talked about it before, but academic wise, how will the classes benefit from this?
So, and we currently do it. We don't do it well right now because our video board doesn't work. But there's a curriculum that is attached to this. We have a class, our advanced broadcasting class. The curriculum of advanced broadcasting is the curriculum of the video. So Daktronic, they develop a curriculum. It's already state approved. We already have adopted the curriculum. We already have the curriculum in class that will continue to be used. But that video production piece is actually a part of our 7th hour advanced broadcasting class. So we have the curriculum, we just haven't used it because the functionality of the board the last 3 years hasn't been great. And with this, they give us the newest, it's kind of like Jason and Heather were talking about, they have new curriculum every couple of years that they come out with as new boards come online. They update the curriculum with all of this. We're obviously get the curriculum with all of that, plus teacher support and those sorts of things. The other thing that is a little different about this board with Daktronics, they gave us a 10-year warranty, which is critical. Our last board had a 3-year, a 3 and a 5-year warranty. It covered part of it for 3, and then I think parts and labor for 3, and then other stuff out to 5. This, we asked for a 10-year warranty. KJ was able to buy a supplemental contract on the last board for a few years, and then they stopped selling us that warranty contract because our board had gotten so old. So one thing we did ask for, Steve specifically asked for, was make sure we have a 10-year warranty on this board for parts and labor. What's the difference? So line item 2 on the quote is the inside board, right? Yeah. So what's the difference between the 360 and the 390 for the 2 different quotes? The 2 different quotes for the inside board. They both should be 390. I put the wrong paper on there. Okay. Yeah. They both should be 390. The only difference is between the 83 and the 26. Yeah, that should be the only difference between the 2 should be the 86 and the 23 on the static score table, which is what we currently have that needs replaced. We've got, like, it has 99.9, and I think the Garden City Telegram, you guys haven't paid us lately. It's on your phone. But that's, so you have a static one versus an LED one. So in our packet, I think there was 3 contracts for the anchor and 1 for founding and 1 premier, but you're saying you've got all. Yeah, so Tyson, the only thing we're waiting on is procurement. I talked to Jennifer about it today, Jennifer Cunningham today, and she said it's just the procurement process, but everything else has been approved from their corporate offices. Initially, they have a new community liaison. Pat Sanders did community liaison forever for them. They got a new one. He submitted it a couple months ago, and he submitted it incorrectly, and so it sat there for a couple months, and we didn't know where it was at. He had to resubmit it. He was hoping to have it to us today, but it's taken care of. And what are the other tiers? You say you have contracts in the other tiers too? Yeah, we've got contracts on the $10,000 tier and on the $5,000 tier. So we've got some of them, I don't know if I can say yet or not, but yeah, we do. So, but we've got 4 contracts out on the 10,000, not all. You wanted all 6, and I know we came to the agreement of 4, but we only currently have 4 of the 6, but I have conversations with 2 more, so. So is this being all paid for up front and then reimbursed over the 5-year period? Yep. Where do the funds for this come from?
Capital outlay. Okay, so are you needing a motion from us to go ahead and move forward with this?
If you would like to, yeah. Otherwise. Otherwise, just thumbs up. Thumbs up. No, all that stuff. Yeah.
Because you're to the point where you're ready to order stuff.
We are ready to order. It's starting to get a little time sensitive for Daktronics.
Well, in recognition of all the work done and the details here, with a couple of caveats, I would move that we support the work and move forward as presented.
Which option?
Well, he said he could cover both of them, so I would think
Our hope is option A with the LED score tables.
Seconded. Any other discussion or questions?
I just, I like, not with this project, so I guess, well, let's vote, then I'll talk.
Okay.
This has nothing to do with what we're talking about
Okay.
now. Yeah,
Just don't forget.
I won't, yeah.
Open discussions next. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can I mention one thing?
What?
Dana, remember I told,
Motion passed.
thank you guys. I appreciate it. Remember I told you, like, if you guys wanted to pay me and I'll raise money for the district, cancel that. I do not. Once this thing's over, I want it to be done. I'm tired of raising money. It's exhausting. Randy, did you have a question?
I do, I know firsthand about, I know the baseball field has a nice scoreboard in it. Softball, maybe not so much, so maybe put that on someone's radar in the near future to look into something.
You and I need to talk about that because we're holding for a reason. Trina and I have had conversations the last 2 years about that, though. It's definitely a part of the conversation. Any other questions?
Congratulations.
Well, thank
A lot of
you.
work.
Thank you
Thank
for
you very
everything.
much.
Thank you guys for approving it. It's been a lot of work and I appreciate the board for, I've talked to a lot of you guys about it. I do appreciate everything you've done for us and the school and the community, and you guys probably don't get thanked enough. I mean, I know I'm thanking you after you're letting me spend close to whatever we're spending, but I do appreciate everything you guys have done for us and me and everybody at the high school. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the hard work.
Forward to board open discussion. Andy, do you have anything?
I think so. That's right.
Put you on the spot.
It just went straight.
I'm not going for volunteers today. Let's get this done.
I'd like for us to do whatever we need to do to move forward with the city for the RHID and the housing incentive stuff. I don't want us to be the hiccup in their process, because I know it's a daunting process. So whatever we need to do to keep that ball rolling or get that ball rolling, I recommend that stays on someone's radar.
Okay.
That's it.
Mark?
Not a lot, except that these are interesting times. We always hope to be living in interesting times, but for school districts, it's particularly interesting. And we've got a lot of effort out there in our leadership and in our schools to address the issues that we're facing. And they're not simple. And so I'm, as always, an advocate of good process. And, one of the things I learned from a good friend from 4-H, even was the process of conducting a meeting, and before you take a vote, you tell everybody you're going to take a vote, and then we proceed to the vote, and then we take the vote. And so whatever our processes are, I just hope that recognizing the long-standing staff that we have in many areas, providing leadership in our schools, that we tap that resource and make sure that our leadership is conducting a process that fully considers that knowledge and wisdom on what works. And for the new things, what ripple effects they may have in the schools and the communities within our district. So that almost goes without saying, but it's sort of a rah-rah for good process. That's all I have.
One. Dr. Dominguez?
Absolutely. Well, as the engaging, enriching, empowering component, the bowling, the Abe Hubert, presenting that I went and saw Jacqueline Hyde, the musical. Anytime you get kids involved, they bring in their parents. Went to Kansas Teacher of the Year. We had 2 candidates at an elementary and a high school candidate compete, and that was in Salina on Saturday. We had the AVID presentation. Anytime you have strategies, habits build us, habits make us. So anytime you can have those strategies put in place and incorporated in the school and in the school system, that's going to help us. And then, of course, everybody, 2 different capturing kids' hearts, Leader and me. It's lovely talking about how it's moving us forward. So that's what we're excited about for sure.
The next meeting of the Board of Education will take place on Monday, April 17th at 6 p.m. in the board meeting room. And we will move on to executive session.
Okay, Madam President, I move we go into executive session for 30 minutes. 30 minutes to discuss a personnel matter pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under KOMA to discuss an individual employee's performance, beginning at, they need time, so 8:20, about 8:20. And the open meeting will resume in the board meeting room at 8:15. I would like to invite Dr. Dominguez to join us in executive session.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.